In a hushed courtroom, packed with onlookers, Judge Karen Russell's voice rang through the tension. "Mrs. Carlyle, if you are pregnant, we need to know who is the father." The gasp that followed her question seemed to shake the walls. "Lily." Carlyle glanced at her husband, billionaire magnate Andrew Carlyle, whose clenched jaw spoke volumes. Across the aisle, Andrew's glamorous mistress Sabrina Miles tried to maintain her composure but was visibly trembling. Then Lily spoke the words that changed everything, igniting a firestorm of shock and accusations. The response was so explosive that Sabrina stormed out of the courtroom, slamming the door with a resounding echo. The city of Westbridge was no stranger to wealth and grandeur. Nestled between rolling hills and a glistening river, its skyline boasted modern architecture mixed with classic brick buildings that stood as silent witnesses to the shifting tides of power. The Carlyles were the talk of this opulent community. Andrew Carlyle, a man of imposing height and a mind so sharp that he had made his first million by age 25, was one of the city's most prominent figures. His company, Carlyle Innovations, specialized in renewable energy and had grown from a humble startup to an international behemoth valued at billions. Magazine covers regularly featured Andrew's stern yet confident profile, lauding him for his philanthropy and business acumen. Reporters hailed him as a visionary, someone who wanted to change the world for the better. But behind the carefully curated images and well-rehearsed interviews lay a man who battled demons of ambition. Andrew's desire to climb higher sometimes overshadowed his family life, and cracks in his once perfect marriage began to appear. Andrew's wife, Lily Carlyle, was different from many socialites in Westbridge. She was soft-spoken with warm brown eyes and a keen intellect hidden behind her gentle manner. People often underestimated her, mistaking her gentle demeanor for naivety. Yet Lily had the soul of a fighter, shaped by adversity from a young age. Orphaned by a fire that destroyed her childhood home. Lily learned resilience early on, although she rarely broadcasted her personal history. She was no stranger to heartbreak and survival. Lily and Andrew met in college at a networking event for entrepreneurial students, albeit from different spheres. He was the star speaker. She was the curious listener. Sparks flew from the moment he stepped down from the podium to answer her one question about solar panel design. Intrigued by her thoughtful query, Andrew asked Lily to coffee. That simple invitation bloomed into a whirlwind romance that culminated in a lavish wedding 2 years later. For a while, they were the golden couple, beautiful, charitable, and admired. Lily's radiant smile and Andrew's driven ambition made them a power duo in Westbridge. High society galas where routine fundraising events were the norm, and the Carlyles became synonymous with both modern philanthropy and innovation. Yet the chain of events that would lead them into a courtroom was brewing silently like a storm gathering on the horizon. Whispers about Andrew's late-night meetings and sightings of him escorting a mysterious woman to exclusive dinners circulated among society's rumor mill. Still, Lily and Andrew appeared side by side at gala events, forging a united front. Beneath the veneer, Lily's suspicions grew, and with them her heartbreak. Was Andrew's unwavering focus on business the only explanation for his late hours? Why was there often a faint trace of perfume on his lapel that wasn't hers? And when Lily discovered she was pregnant, instead of a moment of celebration, she felt her heart squeeze with worry. Those worries would soon manifest as an outright scandal culminating in the courthouse, with everyone seated, the camera flashes firing away, and Judge Karen Russell looking on with eyes that had seen it all. Sabrina Miles was a name that came out of nowhere, yet ascended quickly in the social circles of Westbridge. A well-known social media influencer, she prided herself on flaunting designer clothes, flashing selfies with A-list celebrities, and posting about her exclusive nights at top restaurants. Her tall, lithe figure and platinum blonde hair turned heads at every gathering, and her Instagram feed reflected a life of unending glamour. Where she came from was a mystery. Some said she grew up in Chicago's suburbs. Others claimed she was an heiress who had run away from home. One rumor even suggested she was dating a minor European royal before moving to Westbridge. Regardless, Sabrina arrived on the scene with fanfare, wooing the city's elite with a mesmerizing combination of charm and brazenness. Andrew first met Sabrina during a networking gala for renewable energy investors, sponsored by his own company. She had managed to secure an invitation, presumably by calling in favors from influential people who enjoyed her social media endorsements. While speaking with potential backers about expanding Carlyle innovations, Andrew noticed Sabrina from across the room. She stood out like a bright star, wearing a figure-hugging gown that left little to the imagination. Sabrina caught his gaze and offered a flirtatious smile, a silent invitation that was hard to resist. What began as a casual conversation turned into a series of friendly meetings. Andrew convinced himself that Sabrina was a savvy influencer who could help promote Carlyle Innovations' eco-friendly campaigns. Sabrina, for her part, appeared genuinely interested in the cause, though whether it was a genuine interest or a well-rehearsed act remained to be seen. The boundary between business and personal quickly blurred. Whispered phone calls, texts at odd hours, and scheduled lunches that extended into private dinners became routine. Andrew, who had always prided himself on control, found himself ensnared. Perhaps it was the thrill of secrecy, or the flattery of a younger, attractive woman who hung on his every word. Maybe it was the pressure at home, the sense that Lily had grown distant, though in reality Lily was only distant because Andrew was rarely present. Eventually, it evolved into a full-blown affair. Sabrina relished the attention and gifts, diamonds, lavish getaways, and posh apartments. Andrew, with his deep pockets, was more than capable of indulging her. He assuaged any guilt by telling himself Lily was preoccupied with her own philanthropic endeavors. He never thought Lily suspected anything. But Lily was no fool. She had begun to piece things together, the puzzle shaping into a picture that left her heart broken. Being pregnant only added to her emotional turmoil. She hesitated to confront Andrew, hoping that her suspicions might be wrong, that the perfume scent on his collar had been a coincidence, that the dinner receipts were merely business. The official reveal happened during an investors' conference in New York City. Photographers captured Andrew and Sabrina leaving a 5-star hotel, his hand lingering on her waist in a way that suggested far more than a professional relationship. Gossip columns pounced, and soon enough Lily could no longer ignore the truth. Yet the affair was only the beginning of the betrayal. Sabrina's role in this saga would evolve in ways none of them anticipated, leading them all to the courthouse, where secrets would be laid bare and illusions shattered. Lily Carlyle grew up trusting her instincts. Raised in a modest neighborhood until her parents' tragic death, she had developed a sixth sense for subtle changes in people's behavior. She used that sense now more than ever, especially when it came to Andrew. She first noticed his unusual late nights. Of course, Andrew had always worked long hours, but once their business empire stabilized, he promised to cut back. Instead, Lily found herself alone in their sprawling mansion day after day, night after night. He'd claim it was urgent investor meetings or the dreaded phrase, "I need to meet with a client to finalize a deal." Sabrina's name came up in half-forgotten phone conversations, overheard through closed doors. Lily's heart raced each time she picked up on that faint mention. She tried to remind herself she had no proof until she stumbled upon an email thread in Andrew's personal inbox. A quick glance showed the subject line, "Next rendezvous." The words stung like a slap. The realization gnawed at her. She was pregnant, anticipating a moment of unity and joy, hoping Andrew would come home early with flowers and an eagerness to share in their new chapter. Instead, she was confronted with secrecy and heartbreak. She weighed her options. Confront him. Confide in a friend. She chose the latter first, calling upon her best friend from college, Sophia Harris, a corporate lawyer with a compassionate ear. "I'm worried," Lily admitted over tea at a quaint cafe downtown. "Everything changed in the past few months. He's different, distant." Sophia eyed her friend with concern. "Have you talked to him about it?" "Directly?" Lily sighed. "No. I kept hoping it was just a phase. But I've found proof, if you can call it that." Sophia's jaw tightened. "You can't sit on this, Lily. If you're pregnant, you both need clarity and honesty." Lily nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. She felt the injustice of it all. She'd never asked for the billionaire lifestyle. She'd only wanted love and stability. She had devoted herself to Andrew's dream, supporting him through countless sleepless nights while his company grew. And now this. Her suspicions reached a crescendo when Andrew abruptly flew to Los Angeles under the guise of meeting Mark Cuban for a potential partnership. Lily, armed with her misgivings, discovered Sabrina's social media post from the same city, bragging about meeting an influential billionaire for a late-night soiree. The photos were cryptic, but Lily recognized the suite's decor, one she'd shared with Andrew many times on business trips. It was then Lily decided she would gather all the courage she had left and confront Andrew. She prayed that perhaps there was some misunderstanding, some logical explanation. Deep down, she feared the worst. What Lily didn't expect was that the confrontation would lead to a public trial, nor did she imagine the fatherhood of her unborn child would become a question for the entire city to speculate upon. Yet suspicion had been planted, and the seeds would soon sprout into a scandal that no one in Westbridge could ignore. Lily waited until late into the evening when Andrew returned from his latest business dinner. The Carlisle mansion glowed with soft lighting, the classical music Lily had played earlier, still lingering in the background. She sat in the living room, legs crossed, hands gripping her teacup so tightly that her knuckles whitened. Andrew walked in, loosening his tie, oblivious at first to the tension that thickened the air. "You're still up," he said, his voice betraying a note of guilt. Lily didn't answer right away, instead setting down her cup with a delicate clink. Andrew froze. Her gaze was unrelenting, direct, quiet fury beneath controlled composure. "Andrew," she began, her voice quivering just a bit. "We need to talk." He sensed the gravity in her tone. He placed his briefcase down and slowly approached. "What's this about?" "You know exactly what it's about," Lily countered. She rose, crossing the room to stand face to face with him. The silence that followed felt like an eternity. Finally, she threw down a social media printout, Sabrina's post from Los Angeles. "Recognize this hotel suite?" "Looks familiar, doesn't it?" Andrew's eyes darted from the paper to Lily. In that moment, he knew he was caught. "Lily, I can explain," She gave a bitter laugh. Can you? Because I've watched you lie to me for weeks, maybe months. I can't do this anymore, Andrew. Andrew ran a hand through his hair, searching for the right words. I didn't want to hurt you. I swear. It just happened. It was a moment of weakness. A moment. Lily's voice cracked. This was more than a moment. Don't you dare reduce it to that. The dinners, the trips. And now she's flaunting your affair online. He tried to approach Lily, but she stepped back, tears filling her eyes. You know I'm pregnant, she said softly, her voice trembling. I thought we'd be celebrating. Andrew's face paled. Pregnant? Why didn't you tell me? She turned away, hugging herself. I wanted us to have a moment of joy. But you were never around, always busy with these business trips. And now, with Sabrina, I couldn't bear it. His eyes filled with a mixture of shock and regret. Andrew reached out tentatively, but Lily pulled away. She felt humiliated and betrayed, yet her love for him warred with her anger. Please, Lily, Andrew pleaded. Let's figure this out. All those times I needed you, she murmured, and you were with her. How could you do this? Andrew bowed his head. I'm sorry, Lily. I never wanted to hurt you. But the apology fell flat. Lily inhaled sharply, tears streaming down her cheeks. I'm going to stay with Sophia tonight. I need some space. As she walked out the door, Andrew felt a cold dread creep up his spine. He had once believed he could manage the situation, juggle a mistress, and maintain his marriage. However, in that one confrontation, he understood just how profoundly he had underestimated the storm that was coming. Word of the Carlisle scandal broke faster than Andrew could have anticipated. Westbridge's tabloids seized on the story. Billionaire caught in love triangle. The photo of Andrew and Sabrina leaving a hotel together made the front page of the Westbridge Gazette. Online forums buzzed with speculation. Did Lily Carlisle know? Would the couple divorce, who was truly at fault? Andrew found himself inundated by calls, journalists hounding him for statements, anxious investors questioning his stability, and business partners unsure of what this scandal meant for Carlisle Innovations. The weight of it all threatened to crush him. Meanwhile, Lily sought solace at Sophia's apartment. The supportive friend offered more than just a shoulder to cry on. Sophia was also a savvy lawyer. If you consider a divorce, Sophia said you need to think about what that means for you, the baby, and your share of the marital assets. You've devoted a lot of your life to Andrew's dream. Lily pressed a hand to her temple, her head throbbing. I've never cared about the money, but I do care about how this affects our child. Sophia nodded. Then we need to ensure that your rights and your child's rights are protected. Andrew is a billionaire. He can afford an army of attorneys if this goes sour. Lily's heart ached. Despite the betrayal, she wasn't ready to go nuclear. Andrew was still her husband, and they were expecting a child. But every time she remembered Sabrina's smug face on social media, a fresh wave of anger and sorrow washed over her. Andrew tried to reach Lily multiple times, sending long messages begging for a meeting. Lily relented once, allowing him to visit Sophia's apartment. Seated on the couch, Andrew looked worn out, his posture defeated in a way Lily had never seen before. I want to make this right, he said. I'll end things with Sabrina. It was a mistake you repeated for months, Lily interjected, voice heavy with hurt. Andrew paused, swallowing hard. Yes, I was selfish. I never stopped loving you, Lily. I don't want to lose you or our baby. Her eyes narrowed. And what if she's pregnant? The tabloids have been having a field day with that rumor. Andrew shook his head. She's not. That's just speculation. Sabrina's furious that I've cut her off, so she's pulling whatever strings she can to stay relevant in the media. I promise you, Lily, there's no baby with her. Lily cast her gaze down her heart, torn between anger and longing for the life they once shared. I need time, she whispered, and you need to respect that. Andrew slowly reached for her hand, but Lily pulled away, tears glistening in her eyes. I'm staying here until I figure out what's next, she said. He nodded, a flicker of hope in his eyes. Take all the time you need. But a quiet dread lingered between them. The swirl of rumors, the escalation in the press things were moving quickly, and no one could foresee the ultimate showdown looming in the courthouse. If Andrew had hoped to resolve things discreetly by cutting ties with Sabrina, he underestimated her vindictiveness. Outraged by his attempts to end their affair, Sabrina took to social media with cryptic statements aimed at fueling the rumor mill. She posted a photo of a positive pregnancy test, followed by the caption, "Not all secrets stay hidden forever." The city went into an uproar. Online forums exploded with theories. Was Sabrina pregnant with Andrew's child? Was Lily's baby even? Andrew's. The speculation turned uglier by the minute, damaging not only Andrew's reputation, but also his company's standing. Carlyle Innovations saw stock prices dip amid concerns over management stability. Sabrina's next move was even more audacious. She publicly threatened legal action. She claimed Andrew had promised her a penthouse and a substantial settlement if he ever walked away. She also hinted that she had evidence of questionable financial transactions, insinuating she could ruin him if he didn't comply with her demands. To quell the chaos, Andrew's legal team, headed by the formidable attorney James Bulldog Moriarty, drafted a cease and desist letter. They demanded Sabrina retract her statements and cease slandering Andrew. But the influencer's thirst for publicity and potential wealth had become insatiable. She refused. Lily read the headlines in horror. Andrew Carlyle's mistress demands millions, said one. Another proclaimed, love triangle reaches breaking point. She thought of the unborn child she carried and how all this noise could affect her future. The stress weighed on her more heavily each day, and she found it increasingly hard to eat or sleep well. Sophia tried to reassure her. Look, Sabrina hasn't provided any actual evidence of pregnancy beyond a picture of a test we can't verify. We can challenge that in court. And if Andrew says it's not his, he can demand a paternity test. Lily nodded, but worry gnawed at her. Sabrina seems desperate, she said. A person that desperate can create chaos. The next day, Lily's worst fears inched closer to reality. Sabrina filed a lawsuit claiming emotional distress breach of promise and defamation, accusing Andrew of manipulative behavior that had impacted her mental health. She demanded compensation to the tune of 8 figures. Suddenly, Andrew faced both a personal and legal storm. And in a cruel twist, Sabrina's legal team suggested questioning Lily's pregnancy. If Sabrina really was pregnant, how could they be sure Andrew was the father of Lily's baby and not someone else? The rumors online took that insinuation and ran with it, fueling endless gossip that Lily might have had an affair of her own to retaliate. Lily felt trapped, as though she had lost control of her own narrative. She wished she could simply vanish, take her unborn child, and find peace far away. But Andrew pleaded with her to stand by him, at least publicly. He promised that once this fiasco was over, they could start fresh. In a moment of raw honesty, Lily admitted to herself that despite the betrayal part of her, still yearned for the dream of a family with Andrew. And so, against her every instinct to run, Lily agreed to attend the first court hearing. The stage was set for a showdown that would leave Westbridge breathless. The first court hearing was a preliminary one meant to address Sabrina's lawsuit and Andrew's countersuit for defamation. Judge Karen Russell, a no-nonsense figure with steel-grey hair, presided in her black robe with the stern composure she was known for. Beneath that formality, though, lay a sharp wit that had unraveled more than a few cunning litigants over the years. Sitting at the plaintiff's table, Sabrina Miles looked every bit the celebrity, wearing designer sunglasses atop her head and a statement dress that hugged her figure. Her lawyer, a slick man named Garrett Bloom, exuded confidence. Opposite them, Andrew and his defense team, led by James Moriarty, were poised and serious. Lily sat beside Andrew, but kept her hands folded on her lap, her anxiety evident. The courtroom was packed with reporters and curious onlookers, all craning their necks for a glimpse of the drama. The hum of whispered conversations fell silent when Judge Russell took her seat and banged the gavel. She surveyed the parties before her. This is case number 2384. Sabrina Miles v. Andrew Carlisle and Andrew Carlisle v. Sabrina Miles. Let's keep this civil, folks. Sabrina's attorney stood launching into a performance worthy of daytime television. Your Honor, my client has been deceived and manipulated. Mr. Carlisle not only promised her financial support, but also engaged in conduct that deeply harmed her emotional well-being. He used his power and influence to lure her into an affair, only to discard her. Sabrina dabbed theatrically at her eyes with a tissue as camera shutters clicked. Andrew's jaw tightened. Lily glanced away, her stomach churning. When it was Moriarty's turn, he spoke calmly. Your Honor, the claims are baseless. Ms. Miles is engaged in a campaign to extort money from my client. She has offered no concrete evidence of pregnancy beyond an unverified photo. Furthermore, she publicly accused Mrs. Carlisle of adultery, by insinuation, harming the Carlisle family's reputation. Judge Russell listened intently, her eyes flicking between the parties. I see. Well, Ms. Miles, since you've brought this suit, the burden of proof lies with you. The court will require medical proof of pregnancy if that claim is central to your damages. Also, slander and defamation are serious allegations to be proven by Mr. Carlisle's side. Sabrina's lawyer nodded. Of course, we will provide the necessary documentation. Judge Russell then turned to Lily, her gaze softening slightly. Mrs. Carlisle, you are here as a potential witness, correct? Lily's throat went dry. She managed a nod. I understand this is a sensitive matter, the judge continued. Let's proceed respectfully. The hearing ended with Judge Russell setting a subsequent date for evidentiary disclosure. As the parties rose to leave, reporters shouted questions, flashes blinding Lily. Sabrina strutted by, throwing Andrew a venomous glare. In the hallway, Andrew whispered to Lily. We'll get through this. I promise. Lily only tightened her arms around herself, unsure whether to believe him or if the worst was yet to come. After the preliminary hearing, rumors multiplied like wildfire. Online forums spun increasingly wild theories. Some speculated Lily had a secret lover. Others claimed Sabrina was never pregnant at all, but was blackmailing Andrew with something more sinister than an affair. Conspiracy-minded blogs emerged, calling the entire fiasco a setup staged to manipulate Carlyle Innovations' stock price. The stress took a toll on Lily, whose pregnancy was already delicate. She felt nauseous each morning, not just from hormonal changes, but from anxiety. Any time she left Sophia's apartment, paparazzi seemed to appear from nowhere, shouting invasive questions like, "Is Andrew really the father?" She dreaded going out, dreaded her phone buzzing with yet more messages of either sympathy or scorn from people who had no idea what she was going through. Meanwhile, Andrew tried to regain control. He held an emergency press conference outside Carlyle Innovations headquarters. Standing behind a podium, he maintained a calm but firm demeanor. "The rumors circulating are harmful and untrue," he said. "My focus remains on the success of this company and the well-being of my family. I have no further comment on personal matters at this time." Sabrina, never one to be outdone, took to live streaming. "I'm not trying to destroy Andrew Carlyle," she proclaimed to her thousands of followers. "I'm just seeking justice for the promises he made to me and for the emotional damage I've suffered. No one should be used and discarded." People ate it up, and divisions formed. Some stood by, Andrew citing Sabrina's past manipulative behaviors, which started to surface from old acquaintances coming forward. Others supported Sabrina, believing she was a victim of power imbalance. And then there were Lily's supporters, outraged that this scandal overshadowed her pregnancy and subjected her to public scrutiny. A few days later, Lily received a summons to testify in court at the upcoming evidentiary hearing. As she read the official letter, her hands trembled. She knew Sabrina's lawyers would ask her humiliating, invasive questions, possibly even insinuating that her unborn child wasn't Andrew's. Lily felt sick at the thought, but resolved to stand her ground. Sophia helped Lily prepare. They rehearsed potential lines of questioning, focusing on answering truthfully without giving the opposition room to twist her words. "Stay calm," Sophia advised. "They'll try to shake you. Don't let them." Andrew, for his part, showed up at Sophia's apartment to offer moral support. He brought Lily's favorite takeout miso soup and dumplings, but the gesture felt painfully inadequate. Still, Lily appreciated the effort. They sat at the kitchen table exchanging stories of how the media was hounding them, how strangers felt entitled to comment on their private lives. In a rare moment of tenderness, Andrew placed a hand on Lily's belly. "How is our baby?" "Lily, tears brimming," simply said Strong. She hoped that was true. She hoped that despite the swirling storm, their child would remain safe. But as the next court date approached, the tension ratcheted higher. Everyone sensed that a major confrontation loomed, one that could forever reshape the lives of Andrew, Lily, and Sabrina. The courthouse brimmed with anticipation on the day of the evidentiary hearing. Cameras clicked incessantly as Andrew, Lily, and their legal team stepped out of a black SUV. Sabrina arrived moments later, enveloped by a group of supporters holding signs that read, "Justice for Sabrina." Judge Karen Russell's courtroom was once again packed to capacity. The bailiff called for order, and soon Sabrina's attorney, Garrett Bloom, strode to the center. He wasted no time. "Your Honor, my client is ready to present undeniable evidence of her pregnancy and the emotional distress caused by Mr. Carlyle." From a manila folder, Bloom removed several documents. Medical records showing Ms. Miles is indeed pregnant approximately 8 weeks along. Gasps erupted in the gallery. Andrew stared intently, trying to conceal his surprise. Sabrina looked triumphant. Next, Lily was called to the witness stand. Dressed conservatively in a navy suit, she moved carefully, mindful of her own pregnancy. After swearing the oath, she perched on the stand. Her nerves coiled like a spring. Bloom started his questioning slowly, but the tension in his voice was palpable. "Mrs. Carlyle, you are also pregnant, correct?" "Yes," Lily answered softly. Bloom leaned in. "How far along?" "About 15 weeks," she replied, her hand unconsciously moving over her stomach. "And you claim Mr. Carlyle is the father?" Her eyes flicked to Andrew, before returning to Bloom. "He is." Bloom paced. "Are you aware my client has alleged in conversations with her supporters that Mr. Carlyle confided doubts about being the father of your child?" Judge Russell shot Bloom a warning look. "Counsel, keep it factual." Bloom pressed on. "Mrs. Carlyle, is there any possibility that someone else fathered your baby?" Lily felt a surge of indignation. "Absolutely not," she said firmly. "Interesting," Bloom drawled, "because Ms. Miles has messages from Mr. Carlyle messages in which he suggests you had become emotionally distant and that you were possibly seeing someone else." In that moment, Andrew's head jerked up. He mouthed, "That's a lie." But Bloom continued. He produced screenshots, lines of text, allegedly, from Andrew to Sabrina. Tears pricked at Lily's eyes as she scanned the paper. She recognized Andrew's style of texting, but it was possible the messages had been doctored. She looked to Andrew, her gaze pleading. "I never wrote that," Andrew said, standing impulsively. "I have no idea where those messages came from." Judge Russell banged the gavel. "Order," she barked. "Sit down, Mr. Carlyle. You will have a chance to refute." Lily's breath caught in her throat. The entire courtroom watched, waiting for her response. She lifted her chin, finding a sliver of courage. "Your Honor, I am certain Andrew Carlyle is the father of my child. Any suggestion otherwise is baseless." The judge nodded, studying Lily's sincerity. "We'll note that." Bloom then wrapped up with an insinuation. "So you deny any extramarital activities of your own?" "Noted." "But you can't speak for Mr. Carlyle, who it seems has been doubting you behind your back." Lily bit her lip, trembling with the effort to maintain composure. The question of paternity hovered like a dark cloud, fueling the tabloid's thirst for more. Andrew's attorney rose to cross-examine Sabrina next, and everyone leaned forward, sensing that the real fireworks were about to begin. When it was finally Andrew's lawyer, James Moriarty's turn, he wasted no time confronting Sabrina. She sauntered up to the stand, flipping her blonde hair confidently, but the moment Moriarty began, her composure showed signs of crackings. "Miles Moriarty said you claim Andrew Carlyle promised you a penthouse and a generous settlement. Did you record such a promise? Have a signed document?" She hesitated, eyes flicking away. "He told me verbally. We were intimate at the time, so no, I didn't record it." Moriarty pressed on. And this alleged conversation took place when exactly Sabrina shifted in her seat. It was multiple times across different trips. Last month in LA, for instance. Moriarty pounced. "Last month, you say? Would this be before or after you announced your pregnancy to him?" Sabrina faltered. He found out later." "Right," Moriarty said. "And you have medical records indicating you're approximately 8 weeks pregnant." "Correct?" Sabrina nodded. 8 weeks ago from today. Places conception around the time Mr. Carlyle was. Moriarty paused for dramatic effect. Out of the country, at a conference in Tokyo, with known investor Mark Cuban. A startled murmur rippled through the courtroom. Sabrina looked rattled. He wasn't in Tokyo the entire time. He flew to Tokyo after seeing me. Moriarty arched a brow. So you claim. But flight records which we have here show Mr. Carlyle's private jet left the US on Sunday and returned on the following Saturday. That entire week you were posting pictures in Miami. Judge Russell turned her sharp gaze on Sabrina. Miss Miles, can you clarify these inconsistencies? Sabrina's eyes darted around. She seemed to be losing control of the narrative. He must have visited me before or after. I might have gotten the dates mixed up. The point is, he was with me intimately. Moriarty flipped to another set of documents. Let's move on. Your lawsuit claims emotional distress, but you continued to correspond with Mr. Carlyle, requesting gifts. Isn't that correct? Sabrina's face flushed red. Well, we had a complicated relationship. A hush fell over the room as Moriarty took a step back. Your Honor, the defense believes Ms. Miles fabricated parts of her claims. We request that Ms. Miles undergo a paternity test once her pregnancy is far enough along for safe testing. If she refuses, we believe her lawsuit should be dismissed. Judge Russell nodded thoughtfully. I'll consider that request. Suddenly, Sabrina's composure shattered. This is a witch hunt, she spat, standing up. Andrew never loved his wife. He told me himself. She whirled toward Lily. He's only with you for the image, for his precious reputation. Lily closed her eyes, trying to stay calm, as Sabrina's words stabbed at her insecurities. Then Moriarty struck one final blow. Ms. Miles, if the baby is proven not to be Mr. Carlyle's, do you concede this entire lawsuit is fraudulent? Sabrina's face contorted with rage. I'm done here, she hissed, ripping off her microphone. Ignoring the judge's calls to remain seated, she stormed out of the courtroom, her heels echoing angrily in the corridor. Reporters leapt from their seats, chasing after her in a cacophony of shouted questions and blinding camera flashes. Inside the courtroom, stunned silence reigned. Andrew reached for Lily's hand, but she kept her gaze forward, lost in the swirl of revelations. The courtroom emptied slowly, a dull roar of hushed conversations and rapid camera shutters trailing behind. But Lily Carlyle moved like a ghost, numb to the noise, her hand resting protectively over her growing belly. The final blow of the gavel still echoed in her ears, though it had come hours earlier. Sabrina's exit, her furious shriek, her wild accusations, they replayed in Lily's mind like a cruel symphony that wouldn't end. Headlines exploded online within minutes. Mistress storms out as court demands. Paternity proof. Carlyle scandal takes dramatic turn. Pregnancy. Claim unravels. Lily kept her gaze forward as Andrew gently guided her past reporters, swarming the courthouse steps. Flashes exploded from all angles. Mrs. Carlyle, is it true the baby isn't his? One reporter shouted. Are you staying with your husband? Another asked. Sophia flanked Lily's other side, her expression fierce, one arm shielding Lily as they made their way to the waiting black SUV. The moment the car doors shut, Lily exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. The silence inside the vehicle was a stark contrast to the media chaos outside. Andrew, seated beside her, risked a glance. You were incredible in there. Lily didn't respond immediately. Her eyes were fixed on the city skyline, speeding past the window. Only when they reached a red light did she speak. I wasn't trying to be incredible, Andrew. I was just trying to survive. He looked down at his hands, ashamed. I know I put you through hell, Sabrina. What she did today, it proves she was never after love. Just leverage. Lily finally turned to him, her voice low but cutting. You knew the type of woman she was. You chose her anyway. Andrew opened his mouth to speak, but closed it again, knowing she was right. Back at Sophia's apartment, Lily collapsed onto the couch, clutching a pillow to her chest. Her body ached, and her heart even more so. Andrew lingered in the doorway, unsure if he should stay. "Do you want me to leave?" he asked gently. Lily hesitated, then nodded. "I think I need to be alone right now." He nodded solemnly. "Call me if you need anything." Anything. She didn't look at him as he left. For the next few days, Lily stayed mostly indoors. The world outside was too loud, too invasive. Sophia brought her warm meals, ran interference with journalists, and turned off the TV when scandal headlines popped up. Lily tried to rest, but her dreams were fractured images of Sabrina, of courtroom cross-examinations of Andrew holding another woman. But the truth was, now public. Sabrina's story had gaping holes, and Andrew's Tokyo alibi was airtight. Still, uncertainty lingered like smoke after a fire. What if there was a sliver of chance that the dates lined up in Sabrina's favor? What if there had been one unaccounted day Sabrina wasn't helping matters? Her social media posts continued vague, poetic captions over black and white selfies. They only believe the one with the louder microphone. Or truth has many versions. I only told mine. It enraged Lily that Sabrina could still cast doubt, especially after her meltdown in court. But it also reminded Lily that lies had a way of outlasting the truth, especially when a scandal sold better than honesty. Eventually, Lily decided to return to the Carlisle mansion, not because she forgave Andrew, and not because she missed the opulence, but because she missed her space, her garden, her books, the nursery she had begun painting pale yellow before her world fell apart. She needed to reclaim something of her own. When she arrived, the staff greeted her with quiet respect. They seemed relieved to see her, though she noticed how they avoided eye contact when Andrew was mentioned. Andrew, true to his promise, gave her space. He moved into the guest wing and didn't press for conversation. Over quiet dinners, their words were few. She asked about the nursery wallpaper. He replied with updates on stock recovery and board meetings. Their interactions were polite, cautious. The old rhythm of their marriage was broken, replaced with something unsteady and unfamiliar. One evening, she found Andrew in the nursery, holding up a mobile shaped like stars and moons. "I wasn't sure which one you'd prefer," he said when she entered. Lily crossed the room and gently took the mobile from his hands. "This one's nice," she said softly. "It'll catch the light just right." He smiled faintly. "We'll make it beautiful. For the baby." Lily didn't respond, but she didn't walk away either. Then, just as the first fragile signs of peace emerged, a new letter arrived to court, summons this time addressed to Lily directly. The subject, paternity. "They're questioning the father of my baby now," Lily asked, staring at the paper, her voice shaking with disbelief. Sophia read it again. "It's a formality mostly. Sabrina's legal team filed it before the last hearing. It's being processed now, but they'll probably use it to twist public perception." Lily pressed a hand to her forehead. "So they want to put me on trial now?" Sophia reached for her hand. "No. We'll make it clear you've cooperated, that your testimony was honest. But you may have to appear again." Lily nodded slowly, her breath shallow. "I'm so tired, Sophia. I'm tired of proving what I already know. Across town, Andrew paced his office in silence. He had read the summons too. The thought of Lily being dragged back into court, into a pit of accusations she didn't deserve, lit a fire in him he hadn't felt in months. He picked up the phone. "James, we need to end this. I don't care what it takes. Get Sabrina to withdraw her claims. Threaten a countersuit. Freeze her assets. Leak the flight logs. I don't care. I won't let Lily go through this again." For the first time since the affair began, Andrew didn't just want to clean up the mess, he wanted to shield Lily from any further pain. He had already lost her trust, but he wouldn't let the world take away her dignity too. That night, as Lily stood in the garden watching the wind rustle the hedges, she whispered to the baby growing inside her. "You're not here yet," she murmured, "but you've already taught me what strength looks like." A war had been waged over her truth, and the next battle loomed. But she was still standing, and that she reminded herself mattered more than anything. The courthouse loomed once again, not as chaotic as before, but heavier with expectation. There were fewer photographers this time, but their presence was still keenly felt. They stood outside like wolves' lenses raised, ready to pounce on any hint of drama. Lily arrived dressed in a soft grey coat that flowed around her like armor. Her hand instinctively rested on her belly, now more prominent. The child inside had become her constant anchor in this storm. Inside the courtroom was colder than usual, not in temperature, but in tone. The air buzzed with anticipation, yet voices were muted. No Sabrina this time. No fiery glares or smug expressions from across the aisle. Just her lawyer, Garrett Bloom, seated stiffly at the plaintiff's table with a briefcase that looked far too empty for a case that once brimmed with noise and accusation. Andrew sat beside Lily, quiet and visibly drained. The fight had taken a toll. The man who once strode through boardrooms and benefit galas like a lion now looked hollowed out, stripped of his facade. But for the first time, he wasn't faking strength. He was simply present. Judge Karen Russell entered promptly. Her expression was stern as always, but there was something beneath the surface, an undercurrent of finality. She'd seen enough scandals in her courtroom to know when the show was over. "We are here to finalize the matter of Sabrina Miles versus Andrew Carlisle," she announced. "It appears Ms. Miles is absent today." Garrett Bloom stood, Your Honor. "Miss Miles has experienced continued emotional distress and is unable to attend in person. We request leniency and a continuance to allow her more time." Russell raised one eyebrow. "Counselor Ms. Miles has missed 2 hearings and failed to submit several court-ordered documents. At this point, delay is no longer an option." Moriarty Andrews' formidable attorney rose. "We ask that the court proceed with the evidence on hand, including the results of the paternity test and the failure of the plaintiff to provide any substantiated documentation of a financial agreement." Russell gave a curt nod and reached for the white envelope that had been delivered under tight chain of custody protocol. The courtroom held its collective breath as she slit the seal and unfolded the contents. Silence. Then her voice rang clear and firm. "According to the results of the court-ordered non-invasive prenatal paternity test, the probability that Andrew Carlisle is the biological father of the unborn child carried by Ms. Sabrina Miles is 0%. The words echoed like a bell tolling the end of a war. Lily exhaled, her shoulders finally sagging. Andrew's eyes closed briefly, and when they opened again, there was a shimmer of unshed tears, not of sorrow, but of release. Moriarty didn't waste a second. Your Honor, with this new evidence, and Ms. Miles's continued refusal to provide additional proof of any contract or verbal agreement, we move to dismiss the plaintiff's case in full and request consideration of damages under our countersuit. Bloom cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable. We concede to the dismissal of the initial suit. Regarding the countersuit, we request negotiation in private chambers before any ruling. Judge Russell tapped her pen thoughtfully. Very well. The court hereby dismisses Ms. Miles's claims for financial support, emotional damages, and breach of agreement. Furthermore, this court finds no evidence substantiating her defamation claims or the alleged promises made by Mr. Carlyle. Then she turned to Lily. Mrs. Carlyle, she said, her tone softening. For the first time in the proceedings, your integrity and personal life have been publicly questioned, and your role throughout this case has been admirable. You have the right to speak now, should you wish to make a statement. Lily rose slowly. The courtroom watched as she stepped forward, her figure framed by the morning light filtering through the tall windows. She didn't need a microphone. Her voice, calm and clear, filled the room. For months, I've had to listen to strangers speculate about my marriage, my pregnancy, and my character. I've had to protect myself and my unborn child from lies that were designed to hurt. And while today brings some closure, the pain of what happened doesn't disappear overnight. She looked briefly at Andrew, then back at the judge. But I am not here to be pitied. I am here to reclaim my peace, my name, and my right to live without constant judgment. Let this be the final chapter of that. Judge Russell nodded. Well said. You are dismissed, Mrs. Carlyle. The courtroom emptied slowly, with murmurs filling the space where once silence had ruled. Bloom gathered his briefcase and exited quickly. The press waited like vultures outside, but this time security held them back. In the hallway, Andrew reached out to Lily. Thank you for standing tall. I don't deserve your support. Lily didn't take his hand, but she didn't pull away either. I didn't stand for you, Andrew. I stood for the truth and for our child. Don't confuse the two. He nodded, guilt etched into his features. I understand. Truly. Later that afternoon, news outlets exploded with the verdict. Paternity test clears Carlyle. Mistress vanishes Carlyle scandal ends in courtroom victory. The public opinion began to shift. Sympathy leaned toward Lily, painting her as the poised, wronged wife who had carried herself with grace. But Lily wasn't interested in redemption arcs. Back at the mansion, she stood in the nursery again, this time, with no anger in her heart, only a quiet resolve. The mobile above the crib twirled gently, catching sunlight like stars flickering in motion. Sophia joined her, leaning against the doorframe. You did it, Sophia said softly. No. Lily corrected. I survived it. Downstairs, Andrew sat alone in the library. Fingers steepled, staring at a framed photo of the two of them from their college days, back when love had felt easy. Before ambition, temptation and betrayal tainted it. He didn't know if Lily would ever forgive him. He didn't know if their child would ever see him as more than the man who broke their mother's heart. But he knew the lies were done, and healing, whatever it would look like, had to begin now. The news that Sabrina Miles had lied about Andrew Carlyle's paternity and was forced to drop her lawsuit spread quickly through Westbridge. In the days that followed, Sabrina vanished from the public eye, issuing only a brief apology post on her social media before disabling her accounts. Rumor had it, She left the city to start anew elsewhere. Andrew's company stock rebounded. Carlyle Innovations returned its focus to green technologies with new deals and partnerships on the horizon. Public sympathy turned toward Lily, who had been unwittingly dragged into a scandal. Many admired her grace under fire. Still, Lily struggled privately. The betrayal by Andrew and the humiliation from Sabrina's public lies had cut deep. In time, Lily decided to stay in the Carlyle mansion, primarily for the stability it offered her unborn child. She and Andrew entered counseling, a fragile bridge toward reconciliation. Some nights he would knock on her door and ask if she needed anything. Slowly they shared quiet moments, listening to the baby's heartbeat, planning a nursery. Andrew vowed to prove his loyalty not just with words, but with consistent actions. No one knew if their marriage would fully recover. But Lily found solace in small, hopeful steps forward. And as the city moved on to the next scandal, Lily prepared for the most important role of her life motherhood. Whether that journey would include Andrew as a loving partner remained an unanswered question, a story yet unfolding. Thank you for joining us on this unforgettable journey of hidden secrets, courtroom drama, and unexpected twists. The scandalous affair, a shocking pregnancy question, and a mistress storming out set the stage for truths that had to be confronted, no matter the cost. At its core, this is a story about betrayal, resilience, and the power of honesty, reminding us that even in the darkest moments, truth can pave the way for hope and healing. If you found yourself on the edge of your seat, make sure to like this video, share it with friends who love a good real-life drama, and subscribe to our channel for more captivating tales. Your support helps us bring you more stories that stir emotions and spark the imagination. So stay tuned, because who knows what dramatic twists await in the next compelling story.